Today's Wednesday, December 11, 2019. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The DOJ Inspector General testifies before the Senate. Republicans still losing their minds, trying to say it was all about Ukraine and it was a Russian hoax, even though the man is trying to tell them it wasn't. Latest Quinnipiac poll says everyone running for the Democratic nomination can beat Trump. He can't even get more than 43%. Also, who is running away with the black votes? We'll tell you about it. And the Dream Defenders say that Biden, Booker, and Buttigieg are underachievers. They have tips on how to talk to your family about politics over the holidays. Easy. Cuss out anybody voting Trump. Pinterest and The Knot will not support plantation weddings on their websites. We'll talk about why. And 3 black fathers in 3 different cities were murdered by police in 1 week. We'll give you those details. All right, folks, it's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, in today's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz said that a senior prosecutor failed to convince him that the FBI's 2016 investigation of Donald Trump campaign was improperly opened. He also revealed new details about internal tension among senior officials over the politically explosive case. But also what's interesting about his testimony is that Lindsey Graham focused on Democrats, so-called Democrats in the FBI, who were critical of Trump, but he said nothing about those same FBI agents who were elated that Trump won. Senator Kamala Harris, of course, no longer on the campaign trail. She was back in the chair, and let's just say she had no problem jamming up Horowitz and calling out Republicans on their BS.
General Horowitz, thank you for conducting your thorough investigation into the origins of the Department of Justice's Russia investigation. So your report makes clear that the FBI had a legitimate reason to investigate the Trump campaign. Is that correct?
That's true. There was sufficient predication.
And in addition, your office found no evidence that the FBI launched a politically motivated investigation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And another key finding was that the FBI committed several errors in his applications and in their applications to surveil Carter Page.
Or maybe more than several.
And as the FBI Director Wray himself has acknowledged, your investigation found serious FBI misconduct that needs to be addressed, and Director Wray also said that the FBI fully accepts your investigation's findings. Is
That's
that correct? On the other hand, Attorney General Barr has been highly critical of your findings. During the final stages of your investigation, he even embarked on his own personal investigation by meeting with foreign leaders in foreign lands, apparently in search of evidence that contradicts the fact that Russia interfered in the 2016 United States presidential election to benefit Trump. Clearly, Barr's investigation, which was launched to do the bidding of President Trump, has 2 objectives. 1, to undermine the integrity of our intelligence community. The goal, to cast doubt on the finding that Russia interfered in the 2016 election in order to benefit the Trump campaign. And 2, to intimidate the men and women of our intelligence community by suggesting that our national security professionals will face serious consequences if they investigate wrongdoing on the part of this president or his operatives. So, General Horowitz, I appreciate your extensive work and the work that your office has devoted to this investigation. But in addition, you have the power and the duty to investigate misconduct committed by the Attorney General of the United States, who is doing the bidding of the President to undermine our intelligence community. And I trust you take that duty seriously.
I do, and I'd just like to add that under the law, under the Inspector General Act, it carves out from my authority the ability to look at misconduct by department lawyers from the line lawyer all the way to the top and the Attorney General.
But history has also shown us that the Inspector General can participate in an investigation of the Attorney General, and that in fact happened with General Gonzalez. Do you recall that?
That happened, and it's worth noting, that happened after the Attorney General said our office was not going to get the case, that it was going to go to the Office of Professional Responsibility, and the choice for our office was whether to join that investigation or not. But that wasn't initiated through us.
So
And
then
that's the important point. The law has to change, Senator, and it
So
should
are you
change.
recommending the law, if I
Absolutely.
propose legislation that would
Absolutely.
change the law, would you support that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's legislation Senator Lee has sponsored, several members have co-sponsored. The House has passed this unanimously.
And you would support it?
Absolutely, 100%.
So it was recently reported that the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, asked Ukrainians to help search for dirt of the political rivals of the president. In exchange for the help, Giuliani offered to help fix criminal cases against them at DOJ. Giuliani and his associates, two of whom have been indicted and are now in federal custody, allegedly reached out to a Ukrainian energy tycoon who faced legal problems in America. In exchange for helping find dirt on the president's political rivals, Giuliani's associates reportedly connected the Ukrainian with lawyers who could get a top-level meeting at the United States Department of Justice. In essence, Giuliani's scheme was an attempt to trade get-out-of-jail-free cards for political favors. As part of Giuliani's plan, Attorney General Barr met with the Ukrainians' lawyers, who asked that the Department of Justice withdraw evidence in the tycoon's bribery prosecution. Earlier today, you said you are not investigating matters related to ongoing Ukraine issues. Does that mean that you have decided not to investigate these incidents?
No. As I think mentioned in a recent letter, and I've been in touch with fellow IGs who've been asked by members to look at those issues. We've been in communication with each other. I think as Mr. Fine, the Defense Department IG, wrote to several members of Congress, he was foregoing at the time undertaking any work while the House investigation proceeded and any matters here in the Senate. And as I mentioned, we will look accordingly at any action that we have the jurisdiction to review, getting back to the Section 80 discussion. No other IG has that limitation, by the way. So they can investigate their secretary, deputy secretary, administrator, whomever. I just point that out because that's important to keep in mind as we get requests. And why are we different than the State Department IG, the EPA IG, the other IGs?
Couldn't agree with you more. Do you...
Joining me right now is Amisha Cross, political commentator and Democratic strategist. Also, A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Chris Metzler, he, of course, conservative analyst. And Monique Presley, also legal analyst, crisis manager. All right, three lawyers and Amisha. So, Amisha, I'm going to start with you.
Why you got to start with her?
Why you got to start with her? What's that?
Had a more
Easy, because it's my show.
intro.
So, Amisha.
There you go. It's his show.
What's interesting about this is you saw, we didn't show, but the ranting and ravings of lunatics like Ted Cruz, calling it a Russian hoax, which is foolish because you got the guy saying, no, we actually did an investigation. You got Donald Trump calling this whole thing a sham. You got Lindsey Graham blasting what he called bias among people in the FBI who supported Clinton, but he conveniently ignored the people where they actually uncovered the text messages of people who were elated that Trump won as well. But what do you make of that part, which I think is important, that out of all the departments, Inspector General cannot investigate the Attorney General?
This is an interesting thing to note, and I think that, America is really understanding now why a lot of people want to see Kamala still in the race, but we're seeing that she's really taking a very strong stance here. And I think that having the IG really speak out to legislation that he would have supported that would actually change the current law, even though much of that is on the books in terms of moving through Congress already, is very interesting right now because Republicans, by and large, have not been very supportive of it anyway. So hearing him give that astute observation, I think, is strong. But more importantly, I think that Kamala's line of questioning, making sure that she was, one, being very attentive to the case at hand, but also really drawing him in. And as you stated earlier, with some of the congressional leadership that has spoken, a lot of this turned into a partisan hat fight. What Kamala Harris did was not that.
Mona, here's what's interesting to me. You have Attorney General Bob Barr running around, giving interviews, commenting on existing cases, essentially operating as the White House press secretary in all of this. Acting in a behavior that goes far outside the role of an attorney general. And clearly he is not impartial. Clearly he is not someone who any of us can really trust on this whole deal. And not only that, to hear the IG say a bill's already been passed unanimously, but of course it's one of the more than 300 sitting on the desk of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Yes, and that's the one-two punch. So in Attorney General Barr, his lack of impartiality is not really the problem. He's not supposed to be impartial. He's supposed to be partial on behalf of the citizens of the United States of America. He works for us. He is supposed to be the head lawyer who advances our interests, and instead he's a partisan hack on part of President Trump. And it mystifies me because anyone that they put in that position, it doesn't matter how many accomplishments they have, the closer people get to that orbit, it seems obvious either what was always in them or what becomes them changes, and they no longer have ethics or principles or any of the things that would be necessary. That, in fairness, he displayed in that very same role. I mean, he's had the job before.
It's his second time.
And did the job completely differently. And that is part of the Trump corrosive, corrupt administration. And no, those bills are not going to go anywhere because McConnell, the ultimate person who, if there were impeachment, Roland, he would be at the top of my list of people who should be impeached. It would be Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell because it's his show. It's his show.
Chris, what is interesting here is to watch Republicans. I'm just mystified at the party that exalted the Lord himself, Ronald Reagan, put him up literally right under Jesus Christ, is a party that is carrying the water of Russia.
Well, so here's the issue. The issue really is Republicans are not afraid of Trump. What Republicans are afraid of is Trump's base. They are afraid, rather than deal with the issues that are coming forward, their issue is, am I going to lose my seat? That's the issue here. So from the standpoint of where we are right now as a party, the conversation has to be, how do we survive as a party with this kind of behavior? Because from my perspective, as a Reagan Republican, I'm like, okay, what's really going on right here?
But is there a difference between the base and Trump? Aren't they one and the same?
Well, they're one and the
just
same.
splitting hairs.
No. Yeah, you're right. They're one and the same. Mm-hmm. But the issue becomes, are they going to be challenged in a primary? See, we've gotten to the point in America where the issue is more about our seats. The issue is more about control and power.
Okay, but I got to ask you this here.
Right.
So I'm going to go to Scott in a second, but I want to pull up this Quinnipiac poll. Okay, and so here's a piece. Everybody would beat Donald Trump, according to this poll. Okay, so Joseph Biden, 51-43. Bernie Sanders, 51-43. Biden, 51-42. Sanders, 51-43. Warren, 50-43. Bloomberg, 48-42. Buttigieg, 48-43. Klobuchar, Senator Amy Klobuchar, 47-43. Okay, here's what's crazy about that. Trump doesn't get above 43% in that. What the hell are Republicans afraid of? I mean, you would think that if you are Republican, and if you say to a voter, 16 intelligence agencies have said that Russia meddle in our election. I'm sorry, I am not going to agree with the president on this one. Are you literally afraid?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Republicans do not believe those polls. What Republicans will tell you is there were polls that also said that Hillary would demolish him. And so that's the issue.
Well, first of all,
but every election is different.
First of all, if we even go back to that, the reality is, when it came to that, one, did she win the popular vote? The answer is yes. Elections are also really statewide elections, so part of the problem there, you had national polls. But she did get 3 million more votes than he did. Second thing that you also, when you factor in, the Comey interference changed the election. There, in my estimation, what Comey did resulted in a 3 to 5 point flip, and frankly, that's how he won. Trump only won the presidency by 79,000 votes.
Exactly.
Okay, but what you're presenting is logic.
Right, and that's and they don't really like logic, and that's really the issue, Scott. I mean, and Scott, what they're doing is they're just throwing all kind of crap to purposely cause folks to discombobulate, and then because we know they voters are simple-minded as hell,
and they just lied to
If this was Frank Lucas in American Gangster, he'd be like, "You simple-sided mother." That's how you describe them.
But what's amazing about the GOP at the Senate and House Representatives level is how much they're willing to perpetrate these lies. See, we call them all these narratives and alternative facts. These are just lies. The Senate GOP Committee on Intelligence issued a report saying this Russian interference was not a hoax. All the intelligence agencies say the same thing. Now you have Horowitz and IG saying the same thing, and these leaders in the House and the Senate side just completely ignore that reality. So you change the narrative. If you say it over and over again, you change the narrative, and if you have 40% base or 43 who wants to believe what you're saying, then they want to believe in the conspiracy. If you look at their lives and the lives of Donald Trump to take the money away, and all those that are supporting him at that GOP base, they think alike, they sound alike. How they view government with distrust is all very similar. So you have a willing audience willing to do that. Now, you look at that polling, which was really interesting. The 43% that he gets in that polling is as high as his approval rating will ever be. The problem with that national poll is this, though. This race is going to come down to 3 states.
Right.
It's going to come down to Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and what's the other one?
Michigan.
And Michigan.
How
is he doing? Hold on, bro. How is he doing in those 3 states? That's all I care about.
But here's a piece,
and that's all I will care about over the next year.
But actually, if you break
because that's just 79,000 votes right there.
But if you actually break that down, you can actually add two to 3 other states.
You can add
Ohio?
No.
Florida?
No.
Okay.
First of all, Ohio's gone. He won Ohio by 450,000 votes. He won Ohio by 400. No. Wait a minute. He won Ohio by 450. He won Ohio by 450,000 votes. All them white union workers are gonna keep voting for him. They about as dumb as those farmers who's still gonna support him.
Right.
Okay. Here's the deal. Arizona. The astronaut Mark Kelly. He's leading McSally in Arizona. Arizona could very well, Democrats could pick up Arizona. Latino voting may surge there as well. So the western states you got to look at are Arizona and Nevada. But if you go, first of all, I think he wins Florida. But what's also going to be in play, because Democrats have narrowed the margins, now you have a Democratic governor, is North Carolina. Because they have been able to, with gerrymandering and voter suppression, they've been able to claw back some of that. Remember, Obama wins North Carolina by 14,000 votes. He barely loses it in 2012. Trump doesn't win it running away in 16. And so I certainly think those 3 states, I think you do North Carolina, 2 western states, you're going to have about six or 7 states that really could very well shift in this election.
Yeah. What about the Trump effect, though, that he underpolls? What about that? How does that factor in?
No. And Chris, go ahead. I'm going to respond to that.
Yeah, well, there's the Trump effect, but you also have who is the Democratic nominee and how is that person going to pull away the votes? Look.
Well, it won't be Hillary Clinton.
No, we know that.
So we got to come up with something else.
But if you look at, my view is if the best chance the Democrats have of beating Donald Trump is going to be Mike Bloomberg, depending on Yeah, I think so.
Ain't happening.
Got to get
No.
through the nomination.
No.
Hold up.
first.
Let me be real clear. Okay, you don't have to expend any brain cells. like literally, you can save them. You might have some excess. You can save them. Mike Bloomberg. Let me go ahead and say right now, Mike Bloomberg ain't getting that nomination because here's the deal. Ain't a black woman and a black man with some sense gonna let his ass try to explain away stop and frisk. It ain't gonna happen.
I'm not sure about that because here's the thing. By
ain't gonna happen.
Super Tuesday, every one of the Democrats gonna be out of cash. Where they gonna get the money from?
By Super
kidding
Tuesday,
me?
those black
No,
people who
they
got
raised
locked up
more
and stop and
money.
frisk won't be
No,
out of
Hold
prison.
on.
No,
The Democrats have raised more money collectively, these individuals who are running, as much as, if not slightly more, than what the GOP has raised. Now, when you get down to 1, 2, or 3 individuals who are running, all that cash that Democrats have poured into these individual candidates, they are going to pour into the DNC. The money's not going to be an issue. Believe what you want, it's not going to be an issue.
Here is again when you begin to look at what is going to happen in terms of moving forward. 53% of white women voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't lose any of those white women. I think he's going to lose 2 to 3 points. That's one.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay.
But the other pieces is here. Frankly, where Democrats are, it's likely, I would say, if you had to put money, it'll be Joe Biden. But the bottom line is here. You're going to see a Democrat turnout that you have not seen.
With Joe Biden at the top of the ticket?
No,
Doesn't matter who's at the
Here's the
top.
piece. Here's the piece. They can't. Let me tell you something right now.
Can't be Pete.
Folk hate Trump so bad. You gonna have folk who gonna sober up to vote against Donald Trump. Monique, go ahead.
I respectfully disagree about the GOP being scared. To me, the ones I've seen up close during the past 3 years and the ones I've watched from a distance are ruthless, power-grabbing, amoral, and interested in as many judges and justices as they can stack the courts with, interested in collecting checks without doing any work, interested in allowing Trump to act a fool, and all they really have to give up for the sake of that is letting themselves be talked about as fools while they didn't have an agenda in the first place. So when they were in the majority, they got no work done when they had the House and the Senate. I'm sorry, you got no work done when you had the House and the Senate and the presidency. And so then in losing the House, then they get to claim kind of in the Senate, oh, well, the House is overreaching and et cetera and so on. But no, that doesn't bear out because when all of the power clustered around them, they had nothing that they were interested in doing and advancing for the people in America. And so now we have this dunce who is the president, and they all tap dance to whatever BD's doing. He just called a sitting senator, a sitting representative, a bastard on live TV. Like, while I used to let my children watch the president, we can't. And they don't even go and try to explain it. You know what they did instead? They put 2 more judges on the federal bench today who are
Rated unqualified.
I can't. No, my blood literally started boiling all the way up just trying to think about words I could use to describe, considering all of the people I know who, as defense members of the bar, public defenders, government servants who have served with integrity for decades, are not getting selected. And there are even some whose appointments are being withheld right now that are just stuck in committee while they put forward these people who, I mean...
And only one has been black.
In my
Out of all
lifetime,
them judges, he only found one black dude.
in our lifetimes, we will not cycle out of these appointments. So, to me, we can say they're scared all we want, but McConnell is the devil in a suit.
Misha, I do want to pull this up because when you look at the poll here, that when it comes to Quinnipiac poll, when it comes to black voters, Biden's at 51%. Second place is Bernie Sanders. Elizabeth Warren is at 12%, but in fourth is actually don't know at 10%. What do you make of that? Biden's huge lead among black voters. And at 51%, what that says is that in each of the sectors, he's winning each of the. Everybody keeps talking about, oh, the older black voters.
Right.
No, he's winning each of the sectors, and if he's losing young voters, it's a small margin, and they can't make that up for everybody 34 and up.
I think that there's wishful thinking on the part of some journalists who have considerably tried to separate older black voters from younger black voters in terms of their support for Joe Biden. At the end of the day, there is an embedded level of, I think, resonance with him. There's an embedded level of appreciation. He is known to the black community. He's done almost solely an entire amount of outreach towards the black community throughout this election process in a way that we haven't seen some of the other candidates devote to it. And then there's also the Obama factor. He was the closest one to the first black president. And I think that that makes a difference. When it comes to millennials like myself and then the next generation who are going to be voting in this election, I think that there are some people who don't necessarily always appreciate some of his stances, but there are also people who want to see someone who can defeat Trump, and I think that right now they see him as probably the most viable.
All right, so let me throw this out and push back on that. Do you believe that white supremacy is the reason why you're seeing those numbers from black voters? Let me unpack it. The day after Trump wins, all we hear on Morning Joe and on CNN and the other MSNBC shows and Fox and ABC and CBS and NBC, all we heard was, we really need to listen to these white voters in the middle of the country. We really need to listen because they're rebelling. The economic anxiety of these white voters is really what was driving this. Trump was appealing to the economic anxiety of these white voters. That's all we heard. Scott, do you believe black people have internalized that and, like other people, have concluded, you know what, the only person who can beat Trump is another old white dude?
No, I don't think that at all. I think there are a lot of factors in 2016, including a number of black people not voting or undervoting.
First of all, it was just 2.4%. But I'm talking about, what I'm talking about is all we've heard for 3 years. For 3 years is you know, and I've had these conversations with people. And I've heard it a lot that, you know, the only way we're gonna be. We're going to find us. Oh, we're going to find us a white man. Michael Avenatti, when he came on the show, I lit his ass up on that whole deal, and he said it.
Right.
But there's this whole deal that we got to appeal to them white working class voters.
No,
and the only person who can do it is a white person.
Yeah, no. Let me change the narrative a little bit. I think that the Republicans under Donald Trump have made the country so racially divisive, right? That I think black people of color, not all, I can't speak for all, but people of color believe that the White House under Trump is so dangerous that they're intellectualizing who is the best person to beat Donald Trump. When they think about Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, what's missing from your poll is that Cory Booker is less than 1% on that poll. He ought to be at 5, 10, 20% just for being black, and yet he is. But see, that's proving my point.
Exactly.
What's proving my point is that, again, I look at messaging. I look at, first of all, black people watch TV more than anybody else. And we have been inundated since the day after the election that everything is about white voters. And Chris, here's the other thing. 71% of the electorate in 2016 were white voters.
Right.
This election will be likely the first. Now, this election likely will be the first time in American history that less than 70% of the total electorate are white.
But see, here's the thing for Democrats. Okay, so.
And you're a Republican. You're going to tell us what's going on with
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. From a branding and messaging standpoint, we are two things, and we stick to that: loud and wrong. We can be loud and we can be wrong. We're going to be loud and wrong consistently. Democrats, well, you know, perhaps we think we should. No, we're going to say what we got to say. And so you look at the whole impeachment thing. Here's the issue. Okay, so what y'all want us to do? What are the high crimes? What are the misdemeanors? And frankly, from the Democratic standpoint, you put together this panel of legal scholars, everybody white.
So what? What difference does that make what the panel
it
is?
makes a significant difference.
Well, we would have
because-
high crimes and misdemeanors if the
No,
president would stop subjecting
no. I'm not
Congress
talking about that.
and
I'm
obstructing
talking
justice.
about, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
And give us the documents and give us the testimony of his
I
executives.
get it.
Then we
But
can
what I'm
really
s-
have a substantive discussion.
Oh,
then
but what
about
I'm
impeachment.
saying, however, is if the discussion is the Democratic Party is the party of diversity and inclusion in this entire country, you can't find no black legal scholars.
Well, hold on. First,
red
hold on.
herring. That doesn't-
Wait,
That's a real stretch.
wait,
It's
hold
a
on.
red herring.
But
No,
here's the
it
thing,
is a
Monique.
red
No,
herring.
but
I
here's the
don't
thing.
care what color
Here's
the
the thing.
scholars are.
I'll
it's not-
rephrase. I will rephrase what Chris said. If I had to pick, Republican voters are largely dumb, and Democrat voters are smart.
Loud and wrong.
The problem with smart voters is they think and they process. Dumb is dumb. Dumb responds to bumper sticker slogans. Republicans speak in bumper sticker slogans for dumb people. Democrats speak in paragraphs. And so part of this issue is that in terms of how you speak to voters, I still say this here. I still absolutely believe that if you unpack those black numbers and if you have real conversation with voters, you're going to hear folks say, you know what? After 2 terms of a black president, white folks rebelled, including white folks who voted for Obama. So you know what? In order for us, let's just get rid of this crazy fool. We're going to have to go with a white man. Monique.
No, I don't think that they're largely dumb. The issues that
You mean Republican voters?
right, the issues that
I think a lot of them are
drive
dumb.
GOP voters. Well, I mean, we get more.
No, I think a lot of them are dumb.
Get more of the college-educated cluster, but no, they're economically driven voters also. And you got to think about Republican voters are not that base. Republican voters are the ones who care about what's going to happen to their bottom line. But the one thing that I want to say is interesting about news today is Biden picked up the reckoning crew out of South Carolina that had pledged their support to Senator Harris, and that's a powerful group. You know who, when the news came out, said, oh, that was a good get? Lily Adams from Harris's camp, because all of those people who thought, and I'm talking to the black folks now, and the so-called smart media people who thought by dragging down the Harris campaign with story after story and with all of that negative press and the lying stuff about her record and everything, that it would go to their candidate, like to a Warren or a Sanders or a Buttigieg. It's all going to Biden. The next poll is going to be an even bigger gap than this one. Harris was the only viable candidate that could drag black voters away from Biden's clutch. And now that she is out, he's going to stay right where he is, and he's going to go even further.
I want to bring
And
in
the rest of them are fighting.
Nyla Summers, co-founder of the Dream Defenders, into our conversation. And just your perspective, what are you hearing? What are you seeing when you look at that poll? Biden at 51% among black voters. When you see the fact that obviously Senator Cory Booker, who is black, is still in the race, barely at 1%. You have Andrew Yang is in the race. He's less. He's like, I think, at point something percent or whatever. I mean, people are blown away by the fact that you have people of color, 4 people of color among the Democratic nominees, all doing horrible among black voters.
I think that we are in a totally different place right now. I mean, you said a few minutes ago about Bloomberg. How can anybody with sense explain away stop and frisk? Biden is the guy who wrote the 94 crime bill. So, you know, our folks are waiting for that to dawn on our parents and our grandparents and our aunties and uncles. And we're doing the work to sort of get folks in our organization, young folks, young people of color, young black folks, to talk to their families. Because as much as we talk about viability, there are better candidates than Biden. Kamala historic run, commendable. Shout out to the K-Hive for being so fervent. But there are other candidates in the race right now who are actually going to materially make our conditions better.
Who?
And so that's what Dream Defenders are doing the work.
No, who?
Who's that?
Who's the candidate? Who are the candidates?
I mean, Warren, Bernie Sanders, their actual policies. I mean, their criminal justice policies are definitely worth a look.
But so let me ask you this here though, because I mean I get the whole deal in terms of talking to your parents.
Yeah.
But here's the point that I also keep making. You can talk to them all you want to.
Right.
But the issue that I have been saying for years to folks 18 to 34 is that the only way to get somebody's attention is voting. If 18 to 34 actually voted their numbers, it changes. But the reality is 35 plus, they vote. And when you 55 plus, oh man, they hardcore vote.
Right.
And so I think I totally get trying to have that conversation with them. I just still think black voters are looking at this same way white folks are looking at it, same way Latinos are looking at it. It's that man got to go, and I'm going to support the person who I think has the best chance to get that man out, even if somebody else's policies might be better. Your response, I'm going to go to Scott.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to do better. It's actually pretty sad for us, for the Dream Defenders, to be in this place. You know, we're doing all of our get out the vote stuff. We drove people out for Gillum, and it's a different era than it was in 2016. I mean, we had Black Lives Matter at the time. Now we have the Parkland kids. We have the climate strikers. Like, young people are empowered right now, and we're also a huge slice of the electorate this coming election. So, I mean, I think you can't count out the young folks.
Oh, no. And that's the piece. Here's the deal. I'm not counting them out. What I'm saying is they are a potential huge slice of the electorate. But what has to happen is they got to prove it. Just like, look, I'm born and raised in Texas. For the last 15 years, there's been 2.1 million eligible but unregistered Latinos in Texas. I have said to my Latino brothers and sisters, look, y'all come talk to me all day about your numbers. Your demographic numbers means nothing unless it turns into voting power.
Right.
And so that to me is the opportunity if you're a young voter, and that's what I'm looking at. Will they blow this thing out in the primary? Because here's the piece. If in the first, I would dare say the first 5 to 8 states, if all of a sudden young numbers are off the charts, that then changes the dynamic for the next 42 states. But if we see sort of, okay, you know, a slight bump, but pretty much older voters coming out in big numbers, I don't think anything changes.
Roland, let me ask you this. Your premise about that black people and others have decided we got to get Trump out, and I'm going with who's going to win, who can beat Trump, versus going with somebody black or somebody whose policies are better for us. I couldn't tell whether you were bragging or complaining.
No,
what's wrong with that strategy?
No, I was asking you a question.
Because you seem like you were being critical.
No, I was
inherent in the question.
No. I was
critical
asking
of that approach.
No, I was asking a question because actually where the criticism comes in is in the media framing.
Okay.
The media framing, because I had a problem with it the day after.
Say it.
I had a problem with Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, Mika, Willie, what's the other dude? Mike Barnacle, all of them having Michael Moore constantly on. And the whole deal was like, you know, economic anxiety, when they were also overlooking the race issue. They were overlooking Trump pushing their button on illegal immigration, Trump pushing their buttons on race. And I'm sitting there like, what are y'all doing? And I think what happens is when you keep hearing those messages, it embeds in your mind. So you start thinking, well, hell, we might need to have us a white dude who can appeal to the white working class voters to get their attention. And literally, New York Times, Washington Post, all these newspapers and magazines, story after story after story. I'm like, damn, y'all gonna rewrite the same story
but I also
1,000
think
times?
But I also think that you're right about that, but maybe it's slightly different. That people of color don't believe that America is in a position to successfully elect a black Democrat or candidate of color any longer because of how racially divisive the Trump administrations have been. And then they fall into that piece and say, you know what, we need to elect somebody white so we can get him out because nobody black is electable, no matter how much we love Kamala or anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with Scott on that because I think that we are in a very hyper-partisan but also a very hyper-racial point in our nation's history.
Very much so.
And that division, I don't think that many black voters particularly think that that's something that we're going to get over in the next administration. There was a lot of hope, for lack of a better term, based on President Obama's election and us having this historical moment. I don't think any black people thought we were post-racial, but I definitely know that they know that we're not. Everybody knows we aren't post-racial right now. And I think that there is a fear of us choosing someone and that being totally, annihilated by white voters, even Democrats, who choose that they do not want to support that person of color.
Now, I got to ask you this question here. I want to get a sense of what are you also hearing. I was at the airport. I told this story the other day. I was at the airport on Sunday. I flew back from St. Louis, speaking to the St. Louis chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha for the 100th anniversary. Scott, you weren't invited.
I thought you were at the Boule.
No, not yet. So now what was interesting is that so a brother came up to me, and he said, man, I watch your show. He said, but you said that you call people dumbasses who did not vote in 2016. And he said, do you really, really feel that way? And I went, yes. But I then asked him, I said, let me explain to you why. Then I asked him, what do you care about? And it was the same conversation I had with a young sister who called my radio show from North Carolina in 2016. And this young sister said, I'm just not feeling Hillary Clinton. I'm not feeling Trump, so I'm going to ignore the top of the ticket. I'm going to focus on state issues. And I said, what are your top 3 state issues? And literally, I connected the dots between who wins the presidency and her top 3 issues. And as I was talking to her, she literally she's about 24, 25. And this sister said, I had no idea. Now, she said she was college educated, she was an activist, but she said she herself had no idea that the president had an impact on those issues. And so as you're out there, what are you confronting? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And how are you trying to get people over that hurdle who said, I didn't vote in 16 and I don't really see why I got to vote in 2020?
The fact of the matter is that most people get involved during the presidential election. As much as we bump into people from time to time that say that they vote in local and that's all I care about, that's all that matters, most people are involved right now because of the presidential election. So the work that we're doing is talking to young folks. We just went through an endorsement process. Our membership all across Florida studied policy for the last 4 months of all the presidential candidates, and our organization is going to endorse next month. And these people are talking to their parents and doing the same thing. Like right now, we're in a voter education process, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people really have hunger and are wondering how this stuff affects them. And again, that's why we're trying to drive the interest to folks that have more progressive policies. Because the status quo is not going to get us anywhere. And,
so
if you didn't vote in 2016,
President,
that's one thing. But right now, it's a little different. The stakes are higher.
So I take when President Obama said that Democratic candidates should not go too far to the left, that was not necessarily something you wanted to hear him say?
Oh, Obama. Yes, that's not all that surprising, frankly. And, trying to pull the reins up on this young movement, this young force. I mean, kids are on social media making political commentary every day. Look at TikTok; they're all talking about.
But I gotta ask you this though. He won twice.
He won. Because he appealed to the young people, the hope, the change.
But here's the so again, I'm gonna push back on this because it's something that I think we have to think about. He's talking from a position of, I won. He's talking from a position of actually winning white voters. First of all, it's not like he won 50% of white voters, but he won white voters who later voted for Trump. So shouldn't Democratic candidates be really paying attention to the person who won twice as opposed to folks who are saying we should do this, who never won? Because at the end of the day, it's about winning. You can have great ideas, but if you lose, you just had some great, like Beto O'Rourke's people. Again, I'm from Texas. They were all on me. Beto won. I'm like, did he get sworn in? And they were talking about how he won. I kept saying, no. When you win, you win. And so isn't that also part of this struggle? I think that's the struggle between what young voters want to hear and these older voters. I think older voters are saying, yo, we trying to win, baby. So go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Aim higher. Aim higher. As much as our generation got told that people sacrifice themselves for our vote, are we just giving our vote to somebody who frankly doesn't deserve it? Like, I think it's a moral question now. And, we're going to do what we have to do. Young people know what's at stake. They're going to come out. They're just not going to be excited about a Biden or a Buttigieg or whoever else. Like, we want somebody who is going to inspire. We want somebody who people are going to be excited to vote for. That's how we get our numbers up. And, there's independents and, the centrist voter that we often worry about so much. If you have somebody who inspires young people, we will come out in droves. We will win an election for you. If you are considering our future, if you are considering our student debt, if you are considering mass incarceration, climate, if you are speaking to the conditions that we are inheriting, we will come out and vote for you. And Joe Biden and some of these others, which we call the underachievers, are not going to be that for young people. And so you have a situation where maybe he can vote. Maybe he can win. And that's what we keep being told. But he's not doing anything for us. There is nobody who is going to say, you know what? Yes, let's go. Let's drive everybody to the polls. We're going to do it begrudgingly.
These panelists want to jump in. So Chris and Amisha, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so you're saying that. So who is doing it then? Who is this person you're talking about in the current race? These are the candidates you
had
have.
A poll
Who's doing it?
that said black women, millennials, in essence, Bernie Sanders is winning millennial black women.
So you okay. So you really
and this
think...
is, no, it's not an endorsement. Black Women 4 is an organization with many friends, many women who are veterans of the Black Lives Matter movement. They came out for Warren. The young people right now are striving for something that is really going to change.
Okay, so you
Biden is not going to do that.
Okay, great. But so you think that Sanders or Warren can defeat Trump?
Absolutely. There are polls that say so. The polls that we pulled up earlier had Sanders and Warren maybe either neck and neck or winning Trump.
Yeah.
If we threw our weight behind somebody who was exciting and that would actually change things for us, like, why not band together behind somebody who's aiming higher?
Okay, so you're saying so Sanders and Warren are aiming higher. Is that what you're saying?
But
Yes.
hold on. But I need to pull this up here because this is the piece here. So what you just said, you said that millennials in the millennial poll, Sanders was first. Okay.
In essence,
No. I know.
Yeah.
We did a story on it, and I have it right here. But
Gotcha.
here's the piece that we have to deal with. Go to my iPad, please. In that poll, 18 and 34-year-old, if you were to vote today, who would you vote for? Other, prefer not to answer, was 26.9.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders was 18.9. Harris was 17.1. Warren was 13.7. Joe Biden was 10.3. But overall, Biden was at 25. Other was at 26. Biden was at 25. Harris was at 15. Warren was at 12. Bernie Sanders was at 10. The point I'm making is this here. So if you looked at millennials, 18 to 34, Sanders was number one at 18.9. But overall, he was fifth. So the issue that you have, and see, so what I'm saying is, your issue ain't just folks' parents. It's parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. It's
Everybody.
about 35 plus. And
Everybody.
that, to me, and that's what I'm saying, but the struggle so in essence, you're trying to vault somebody who is number one among millennials, but who's fifth overall above the other folks. That's a hell of a road to hoe.
It is. And,
Okay,
we are a
let me-
leftist organization. We are very, very progressive, and we're made up of, change makers.
But do you consider the country to be at that point? Because with the stats that we just saw with those with that polling, it seems like Democrats are not there. And I'm also a black millennial. I turned 31 this year. At the end of the day, I also believe in making sure that we elect somebody who is electable. And I don't necessarily believe that just because you have the furthest left, things that right now with the composition of the Senate, which isn't necessarily poised to flip within 2020, that we're going to be able to get those things passed anyway. I think that there's a certain amount of reasonability, understandability, and facts that we have to operate within as well. And I think that we go about choosing the candidate who is able to bring about the most demographic groups within the Democratic Party. And that exists even among black people, because not all black people are millennials. So when we're looking at this large composite of blacks, we're also looking at people who are just outside the millennial space, the 36-year-olds, who are also going in a different direction. So I think that we have to not make it seem like these are people who don't believe in change. Of course they believe in change. I think all Democrats want to see somebody in office that's not Donald Trump. But on that same token, they're not there yet on saying that Warren or Sanders would be that person.
Right, but also in fairness, President Obama's point was not that the progressives should not be progressive or that the young people shouldn't be doing exactly what they do. Verbatim, he said that that's their job. He said his problem is that no concessions are made, no conversations are had. It's either you're all the way on board with all of these things or you're canceled. And this kind of cancel culture amidst politics does not work. There has to be a willingness to come to the table. So I guess my question would be, if you don't get this one or two of these candidates that you're interested in terms of working with young people, then don't you think it's wisdom to be aiming also to have the necessary conversations with somebody who actually has a chance of winning, so that you know when the nominee is elected and it's not somebody who is as progressive as you want, that you will have an end, that the young people can understand your voice doesn't end because it's not your candidate. Your voice goes all the way to the White House if you're putting in the work with every candidate.
Nyla, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said it earlier that we are committed to getting Trump out of the White House. And right now it's a race. It's a competition. So we're going to, throw down on somebody who we think has a vision for the country that does the most for the most people. And, we'll see who gets the nomination. But either way, we're going to throw down. We're going to get young people in the streets to vote. But, in the meantime, during this primary, Florida's primary is March 17th, we are going to throw down to really try to get somebody who is progressive, who is going to get us minimum wage, a livable wage. And all of those things for our people.
All right, I have got to. Well, no,
Can I have one last question?
You don't want to say it. You got to leave at 7 o'clock.
Well, I was just joking with you. Here's the thing.
Oh,
Even in March,
now you're just joking. Right.
Here's the thing. Even on March 17th.
Final comment, Nyla, because I got 2 other guests. Go.
Even on March 17th, what's the most important objective for Dream Defenders? To elect someone who can beat Trump, or to elect someone that you believe in?
Actually, before you answer that, on March 17th, it's a primary. So the reality is, if you're in Florida, it's who you want in the primary. But once the dust settles, that's a different conversation.
I got you, but
frankly,
that's why I limited it. I purposely limited it to March 17th.
So there you go.
There's a Democratic primary.
So she's already answered it. She wants Sanders.
Did she say that?
She
didn't say that.
Warren
or Sanders.
I'm just messing with you.
Okay, I was like, wait,
Anyway,
hold on. Don't
That's
do
a
that
fair
to me.
question, though. Roland's joking.
But you know
it's a fair
y'all
question.
endorsement coming down with 2 people, Sanders or Warren.
It's
And
certainly
if they
not gonna be
can't
Trump.
win,
I know Biden and Buttigieg ain't on y'all list, but go right ahead.
Neither is Trump.
Answer Scott's question.
But who says that somebody like Biden is going to win against Trump?
A lot of
Have you
polling.
seen, like, his
A lot of
debate
polling.
Definitely doesn't
performances?
say it about Warren.
Say that I couldn't hear that.
Well,
But
first
yes,
of all,
it
here's
is
the deal.
important to value.
Here's the deal.
the
Nobody
vote
knows.
and to value our values.
Here's the deal. Nobody knows if somebody can beat Trump until it actually happens. But the reality is, before you can get to beating Trump, you got to beat the other Democrats. And if you, as it stands now, even though one ballot has not been cast, how polling is going across these various states, Biden is leading. At the end of the day, you still have to run. Look, Obama was down big at this very point in 2007. All of a sudden, ground game, does well in Iowa, changes the ball game. He barely loses in New Hampshire, breaks even in Nevada, crushes Clinton in South Carolina, and then it was onward to victory. But that was the deal. This is also different because that race came down to two different people. And so for all the people right now who are stuck on who can beat Trump, at the end of the day, look, you got to win the nomination first. Simple as that. Nyla, your final comment before I let you go.
Thanks for having me. And, I hope that we figure it out and that we get somebody in office who's going to really help our folks, because ultimately that's the work that we do and that's the work that we need to keep doing.
Well, I firmly believe the work the Dream Defenders is doing is critically important. But also what I have said, whether it's Dream Defenders, whether it's a Black Women's Roundtable, whether it's NAACP, whether it's anybody, and what we do on this show as well is what happened with me and a young brother on Sunday. I think for a lot of people out there, I think for people like us, we live and breathe this stuff all the time. We follow these issues. We understand the nuanced stuff along those lines. The average person sitting out there, whether they are white or black or Latino or Asian or whatever, they're not living and breathing. I think what is important, and I've done it enough around the country to know it works, and that is we have to connect the dots for people. So that's why the first thing I ask anybody is, what's the one or two things you most care about? And then once they say that, I then say, now let's talk about how this politician, whether it's on the city or the county or the state or the federal level, has an impact on your issue. And people go, damn, I didn't know most of that, because they're not living this. And so I think that's where what y'all are doing, where the voter education is important, which is really a throwback to what SCLC, NAACP, and others did during the Black Freedom Movement, where they had citizenship education training.
Absolutely.
Well,
and, we've learned from our elders, so that's absolutely the vein of what we're trying to do.
Nyla Summers, co-founder of Dream
thank
Defenders.
that.
We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about 3 black men being killed, 3 different cities across the country. What in the hell is going on with these police departments? Also, weddings. You know what? These plantation weddings. What's up with y'all white folks? These plantation weddings. Well, a couple of online sites say they're going to stop promoting these plantation weddings. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, as the marijuana momentum continues, our folks at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. So if you want to take advantage, you better get in now. Of course, hemp is a cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana, but it won't get you high. Scott is sad. Now, folks, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the U.S., creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It's an investment opportunity for you and the full folks at 420 Real Estate have a simple business model. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants, people like Chris. They are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Now, all you got to do is invest as little as $200. Monique, you got that. In the crowdfunding campaign, up to $10,000. Amisha, some of that Sinclair money. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. The popular wedding planning sites Pinterest and The Knot are announced they are no longer promoting content for plantation-style weddings. Well, hell, good. Color Change drew attention to the problem and addressed the issue directly with both sites. Joining me now to talk about the success of the campaign. First of all, what is that? What is that video right here? Is that
Is that Candace?
that? Hold up. They actually a black woman and a white man got married at a plantation wedding.
Plantation.
Oh,
And you rolling now.
hold up. I thought that was the video from that slave play.
Oh,
That was Candace.
All right, so we're gonna be bringing up the guests in a moment. Jade Magnus Ogunaki, interim senior campaign director for the Color Change. Let me know when she's with us. First of all, I mean, what do y'all make of these? First of all, what do you make of not just the plantation weddings, but the people with the plantation trips who like, why y'all gotta bring up the slavery stuff? Can't we just enjoy the big house and a nice large trees on the land?
Well, I want to know, do they sing the Negro spirituals?
No.
What they do to
What they want to do is they literally, in terms of these tours, they literally want to remove any like. Can I just come and visit and you not bring up the slavery stuff?
The slave stuff.
Which is
we don't need.
literally the history. No, I think that, obviously with us going into 2020, this should have been eradicated a really long time ago. From the idea that you can actually have a slave tour and not talk about the tortures of slavery is completely ridiculous to me. With the plantation weddings, I don't think that people realize that this is a very high dollar wedding venue. People have been doing this for decades, and they're not cost effective for most people, but they consider it to be something extremely glamorous, something extremely part of the American tradition. They don't even think about the fact that these were places that housed slaves and abused people for hundreds of years at all. And they're using this as something that is extremely romanticized and something that should be in memoriam. And I'm like, there was nothing loving, caring, family-oriented about plantations at all.
yeah, but they're not there for the history of slavery. They're there to celebrate love. And love is in that plantation home now, not hate. No slaves are there. The music is there, costs a lot of money.
I'm
There are a lot of black people
the shit out of
working.
you in that tone of your voice.
What's the problem with
I
that?
just don't.
I mean, why does everything have to be black rolling with you? I mean, race is important, but not in every instance. People are celebrating love. What's wrong with that?
Monique, you want to make small work out of this.
I don't remember my birth and no baby. Okay.
Monique, you can make small. You can handle this small work. You can handle this light work on my behalf.
Apparently you are accurate. Scott has had the CBD product.
Yeah, apparently.
He high as hell right now.
It is working.
Let's just love each other. Love is in that plantation.
On the
right
same
now.
land that auctioned off babies that were separated from their mothers
No,
at birth.
I only had a question because I loved that video with the black woman and the white man getting married at the plantation, because to me that honors the change and the growth of this and the progress of this country. It does not. That was a land that once was desecrated, that now something is happening that is the opposite of the manner in which that girl's great-great-grandmother was on that land being raped by a white man. They do now come together in love, as Scott says, and celebrate. Now, is that the place to do it? No, I guess I see why the Knot probably had to yield to all of the more militant than I who would have a problem with it. But I like taking places that were once places that were a source of pain and abuse and put something holy on it.
I think that's 2 votes. I think she's back.
I'm not up in arms. Now, I don't like the tours with no slavery, but where these weddings are concerned, in that instance that we saw, no, I don't necessarily have
I want to take the sister up.
What should we do with the land? Burn it? I mean, I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know that we should burn the land. However, I don't know what all that's about. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
It's just beautiful land with a nice house.
It's beautiful
That's
land with a nice house.
With the blood of slaves and the soil.
Well, which slave quarters? Are they
every
in the
place
back?
in this country.
The slave quarters in the back of the house, so you don't see that.
That's our original sin. You can't go to New York and
I'm not
escape
trying to
slavery.
get married on it.
But we are in the
versus
Baptist
Virginia.
churches that have the history everywhere. You know, I mean, places that churches that were burned and rebuilt. I mean, our history is not just on that plantation.
Let me know when y'all done.
Okay, well, I celebrate.
I get why they
post-loving
didn't
the
want to do
Virginia.
that. Why I get the movement. I don't have any problem with the movement in all reality. But I think Monique is right about that. Those photos that you ran on your show show significant progress.
Yeah,
But whenever I'm driving through the South, when I used to come from Illinois to Morehouse College, I see these plantations, and I used to think, how many dead people are buried underneath this plantation? And that is offensive. I get it. I get both sides. And if they don't want to promote that anymore, then they shouldn't have to promote it.
CBD
Let
oil.
me tell y'all something right now. Tell y'all something right now.
Oh, here we go.
If your ass invite me to a plantation wedding, I'ma show up, and it's gonna be straight up Mandingo up in there. I'ma show
You're gonna
up.
disrupt a wedding.
Hell
over
yes.
That.
Look,
Make a
look.
political
So
statement.
don't even look. Don't invite me no plantation wedding. I ain't trying to take no tour of a plantation unless we gonna have all of the history. And the fact, I think this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start volunteering to go on plantation tours. And then at that very moment where the tour guide talks about these beautiful quarters, I'm gonna say, "Where Kizzy? Where Chicken George?" I'm gonna just yell it
They're
out.
not here. Could you step away,
I'm
sir?
gonna just yell it out.
Could you step away? Sir,
I'm
they're
just
not
yell
here.
it out. I'm just letting y'all know right now.
So what about?
I'm just
Roland,
letting y'all. No.
what about Tyler Perry Studios then?
Oh,
No.
Oh,
And
what about that?
no, here's the piece. And on that land, okay, it is a part of the narrative of what that land used to be.
Yes.
Well, what's
And
the
yes, no, my point is the difference there is a black man buys land that was a Confederate base. Okay, that's the way it's supposed to go. The issue that I have is when folks want to revere these places and completely remove any of the history. That's the problem. Look, there was I played golf in Virginia. And first of all, you understand, those of y'all who ain't from, who don't live in this area, it's amazing. Folk really didn't understand. Damn near all of this was slave territory.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting here playing at one of the golf courses. I forgot, Algonquin or something like that. And straight up, you sitting here and it's a sign, this used to be slave. So there's a golf course. That was a massive plantation. I would have a problem if that golf course was built and no sign was there. And so the issue I have with these folks who are doing these tours and these weddings is when they want to remove the history. So, for instance, if you go to Georgia, and this is where I got a problem with them white Southern Dixiecrats, but Republicans have gone. It's now switched. Now it's Republicans who are defending this. And Jesse Jackson Jr. wrote this in his book. There's a monument to POWs in Georgia that used to be, it was actually during the Civil War, where Union troops were taken, tortured, and murdered. But they rewrote that history. And so, like, oh, this is a money for all POWs. No, but that's not what the land was. And it was a way for them to rewrite the history. And that's the issue I have in this country, how we like to rewrite and redefine the history. No, I need to know what it is. Yeah. And that's the issue for me, and why I got a problem with that. That's just me.
All right. Sounds like you're angry, though. I mean, what are you so angry about? I mean, it's a plantation. You play golf on it. Let's just forget about all that past stuff, man. Let's keep it moving forward.
What was that?
You're just angry. You're always angry on your show.
He even got the black conservative like, why you sit me next to his ass?
I'm like, can I switch seats?
All right, folks, let's talk about, let's now bring Attorney Lee Merritt. 3 black fathers in 3 different cities were murdered by police over the course of a week. Cameron Lamb of Kansas City, Missouri, was killed on December 2nd. Michael Dean of Temple, Texas, was killed on December 3rd. Demetrius Williams, Marshall, Texas, was killed on December 5th. Joining us now is Lee Merritt, the family's hired him in these 3 cases. And so, Lee, you tweeted about this saying it hasn't got much media attention. What's the issue for you?
Well, I think it's become far too normal, and we need sort of an international perspective to appreciate how outrageous 3 black fathers being killed in a 1 week time span is. We've come to accept that 1,100 people are killed a year on average by law enforcement. That's more than the next 10 countries combined. We have a brutal police culture that has become far too status quo. And I think we as a responsibility, and I appreciate you, Roland, and really the black media, they picked up on it, but the national media, even local media, has kind of glossed over it like it's not a big deal.
And in these particular cases here, were they controversial shootings?
Yeah. And you see me standing out in the middle of nowhere. I'm somewhere in East Texas, just outside of Temple, Texas, where we just left a meeting. Michael Dean, on his daughter's 6th birthday, he went out to buy her a birthday cake, and he never came home. Typically, in these cases, if there is some sort of justification, even if it's not an actual justification, if there's a narrative that they can offer, they will. In the murder of Michael Dean, they offered absolutely no explanation. You have a 26-year-old man who went out to get a birthday cake and ended up with a bullet in his head. We don't know if it was a traffic stop. We don't know if it was just a random targeting. I do know this, Roland, and you know this too. If they had an excuse, if they had a justification, if they had a gun or some sort of tussle, they would have said that by now. They've said absolutely nothing to this family. A week later, the family just knows their son was shot in the head by a police officer, and they're expected to just to accept that until, guess who? The Texas Marshals complete their investigation. The Texas Rangers complete their investigation and make a recommendation to the district attorney's office. And we just learned that the Texas Rangers are not necessarily in favor of injustice in the Botham Jean case.
Wow. Well, that is certainly sad in the case of that. Of course, the families have hired you to be involved in that, and so we certainly will follow this. Keep us updated with what's the case in all 3 of these cases.
Brother, I appreciate you covering it, and I would love to tell you about the other cases. The problem is, I know you're on limited time, and the bodies just keep piling up.
Man, that is what is certainly sad. Well, Lee Merritt, we appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I do want to talk about this story here. The shooting took place in New Jersey yesterday, where police say 2 suspects. Go to my iPad, please. David Anderson and Francine Graham. This is the New York Post. So they followed a hateful religious sect called the Black Hebrew Israelites, and they believe that Jews were. First of all, I'm reading the story here. They believe that white people are agents of Satan. Shots were fired into that. 4 people were killed on the inside. The SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, calls them a strongly anti-white, anti-Semitic group. This was just a crazy shooting that took place yesterday, Monique.
And there's an officer who was shot right before it happened, but some distance away, so they haven't been able to put all the pieces together. But I was just saddened to hear about that. It's so sad for all of the families that are involved, and hate is unacceptable. There's no exception to that.
And it speaks to, again, the issue, Amisha, that we have in this country when it comes to domestic terrorism. In America, largely it's white domestic terrorism, but we have domestic terrorism, but here we don't want to call it that. We just call it a shooting.
Absolutely. I find that very interesting and problematic at the same time, because when you know that there is someone who is out to get a particular race or out to get a particular religion, and they have basically set up their own theology around these things, that is what that is. You are willing to erect that type of violence. You are willing to go through great pains to make sure that it happens. And I think that, using that term should not be napalm for the American public. Domestic terrorism does occur right here on our soil. These are people who were born and bred right here in America. And I think that that's still a very hard thing for our government, but as well as citizens to actually come to grips with. It's a whole lot easier to, even when wrong, point out terrorism from somebody who does not look like us and who does not come from this country.
Roland, was this group as part of this shooting? Was this the same group that was on the Lincoln Mall with the Indian and the young kid from the Midwest with the MAGA hat on?
It was an affiliated group.
You know, my greatest fear is that all hate groups are completely, you know, I want to abolish them quite frankly, whatever their race is, and I agree with Monique. My concern here, once we get through the grieving, is that this hate group, because they look like us, that our conservatives and Republicans will use this to justify the fact that they don't own the white hate group space, who are killing more police officers than black people could ever kill on an annual basis. And so, you know, I don't think hate speech has never been free speech. I think if you're a hateful group, however you define them, and it needs to be defined, then I think you lose your First Amendment right. I just do.
Well, in fact, look, they're already doing that.
That's not the law, by the way, but I believe that.
Chris, they're already doing that. I mean, all of a sudden, the media, you're not even covering this story because of these black separatists. But if they were white, you would be all over it.
Well, but, you know, as I say to conservatives all the time, we go back to Timothy McVeigh, we go to Dylan Ruth, we go to a number of these people, and I think that's a huge part of the problem. It is easier to say that they are Middle Eastern or they're this or that or the other. The fact is that what Timothy McVeigh did was, in fact, terrorism. I mean, that's the fact.
Why is it harder because they're white? I mean, if they're white terrorists, they're white domestic terrorists. So what? They're all bad.
Well, we don't disagree on that, and
because America don't like saying that.
Yeah,
because
I haven't taken any CBD, but we don't.
Other. Yeah.
It's the other.
White is pure. They don't have terrorism. They don't hate. Jesus is white, blonde hair, and blue eyes.
I say all that.
You believe that, don't you?
No, I say
conservatives, Republican conservatives believe that.
But see, here's the thing. You're talking about Republicans, conservatives. So let me be clear.
Just asking.
No. Let me be clear. Okay.
Well, come on, make it clear. I gotta go.
Okay, I'm gonna make it clear. From my perspective, I am a conservative. I'm not crazy. I'm not a nut. I'm conservative. That's it. Okay? So in a lot of cases...
I didn't suggest any of that, though, without a doubt.
You intimated that.
What, do you have something in writing that would support your position? I'm just asking. I don't know. I mean,
read my book.
Oh, okay.
But I think that if they admit it, they also have to come to grips with the fact that there is a lot of domestic terrorism that continues to go on.
Right.
Because these are becoming less and less isolated incidents and happening more regularly. And typically, the person does look like white America. I think that's a very hard thing for America to swallow.
And speaking of looking like white America, Megan Rapinoe, she was named the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year, but she had no issue taking Sports Illustrated to task when it comes to what the room looked like. Go to my iPad. All right, let's see here. We're going to switch it up here. All right, let's see here. Hold on, I'm going to restart it. All right, you got it? All right, we're trying to get them. Do you see it? Let me know when you see it. All right, how's it now? Still don't see it? All right, here we go. Build the audio up. All right, not sure. We're trying to work the audio out. Let's try it again. Because if you're getting the video, you should be getting the audio. So we're going to restart it. So basically, of course, in her speech, of course, this is the soccer player who took a knee after Colin Kaepernick did, and so she was named again Sportsperson of the Year by Sports Illustrated, and so she spoke to diversity.
Any story that we could write. And while we don't get to choose what it is that we witness, we are the gatekeepers of those stories. And we do get to decide how we bear witness to the world around us and to the truth that we see. Is it true that I am the fourth woman deserving of this award? I don't think so. Is it true that so few writers of color deserve to be featured in this publication? No. Is it true that so few women's voices deserve to be heard and deserve to be read in this publication? I don't think so. Or any story that we could write. And while we don't get to choose what it is that we
See, y'all, don't you notice how quiet that room was? See, this is the fundamental issue with mainstream media. Mainstream media reports on everybody else. Mainstream media, oh, you'll be on CNN, they'll be, Chris, what's wrong with the Republican Party and diversity? Scott, you might be on Fox News. Well, Scott, why can't the Democrats appeal to black voters?
Fox News. You could have picked any other network. But
I've seen you on Fox News.
Because they call milquetoast Negroes.
Yeah, but I'm not a milquetoast Negro.
They call you. They stopped calling Monique.
Reason.
Anyway, so.
Oh, she milquetoast Negro.
No, I said they stopped calling.
Oh, they stopped calling her.
Yeah, because they like milquetoast. Okay, so but the point is, the reality is, media, we cover everybody else. We talk about diversity and numbers in every industry. Hollywood, they write about diversity of the studios, of the talent agencies, but not their own places. And that reaction is what you typically see because you got largely white men and white editors at these media outlets who are executives, who believe themselves to be progressive, and they never ever look around the room and say, where in the hell is the color? And because nobody reports on media. Nobody.
And that was a great example of allyship from her. And that's what we need. We need that from, and I'm not saying she was part of the 51% on the white women that got Trump elected, but we need that 2, 3, 5, 10% of them to step forward in that manner. And she didn't just step forward for people like her. She stepped forward for all of the groups that are not represented. And I thought that was good work.
It's like, look, when we on the board of NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, was calling out CNN for lack of diversity, I didn't hear Jake Tapper say a word.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the other anchors. I didn't hear Anderson or Wolf or any of them say, you know what? NABJ's got a point. No black executive producers or VPs or SVPs or EVPs or direct reports. Now, because of our pressure, 4 black folks got promoted. But the bottom line is, folks got quiet. Now, maybe they said something internally. I doubt it. But that's one of the fundamental problems with media. And so for her to stand there on the night where she's accepting their biggest award and to call them out for the lack of writers of color, places where Jonathan Rogers, my mentor, my alpha brother, who was the first black staff writer at Sports Illustrated, Roy Johnson, who later was an editor at Sports Illustrated. Ralph Wiley was a writer there. But that is the case. And if you want to see the real deal when it comes to race, go to the sports press box. You think you got a problem on the news side? Hey, look at the sports side.
Yeah, but she was very, very comfortable and very direct, without emotion almost, talking about, and she raised it in a question form, right? The reason that audience is quiet, the reason that in your example, Jake Tapper and others didn't raise the issue with NABJ is because, hell, let's be honest, if they want their jobs, they want to keep making millions of dollars, and I don't have a problem with women do that, but what happens to the voices within media organizations that raise those issues? What happens to those voices?
Well,
they're removed.
No. Here's the real. If you white, and you at the top of the food chain, you're going to be right there.
But that's not a place of comfort for those who make the most or even make any money.
And that's the damn point.
And they will argue that they're not comfortable with the racism and sexism, but it may or may not be their place to raise it.
No, it is.
They don't know how to raise it.
No, it is.
I agree with the last one.
It is their place, because here's the piece.
Well, they may disagree with you.
No, it is their place. Here's why. Because if you are a TV anchor and you are comfortable pressing ahead of the RNC, oppressing the head of the DNC, oppressing a company's CEO, oppressing someone else, If you are comfortable asking them the questions, well, damn it, you should have the guts to be able to ask your own bosses why we got a problem. And it'd be nice to look around your own newsrooms. And part of the issue that
Is that in their contract, by the way?
Hold up.
What you just
Hold up,
described,
stop,
is that
stop,
in their
stop.
contract?
It ain't in my contract.
Okay, then.
But guess what?
And you ain't on
No.
CNN either.
But guess what? It's not my contract. But damn it, if it understands humanity, if I understand why we need to have progress, if I understand that something has to change, and to Monique's point, when you have allies who are willing to use their power and leverage, if you are in an operation where you're at the top of the food chain, you have leverage.
Agree with all of that.
Let me tell you something.
But if they choose not to, you can't make them
Here's
wrong
the piece.
for that.
Bottom line, when Fox News went through all that sort of stuff with sexual harassment,
They're still going.
and when those women, when Fox News came to Megyn Kelly and said, we want you to issue a statement of support of Roger Ailes,
No, and hell.
she went,
And I won't.
Who you talking to?
her silence,
talking about, Willis?
her
Right.
silence spoke loudly, and then, and when he got fired, she still spoke up on the issue. And so what I'm saying is, to the point about allies, white folks who are supposedly conscious, white folks who are supposedly progressive, need to be using their voices in these spaces, because guess what? They might have a better shot with a white person sitting across the table than one of us, because you know what? Ain't one of us in the room.
You left out one quality.
Money, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I agree with the second part of what Scott was saying. Different but the same. I have had multiple conversations with higher ups in the evangelical community, with senior pastors and with their teams, who have wanted to get themselves unassociated with all of this hate and foolishness that has become what evangelicals are identified as. But I've had to tell me directly, Monique, I tried and I got pummeled. I got pummeled from my side, which I knew was coming, but I got pummeled from your side too, because my language wasn't right and I didn't know how to say what needed to be said, and I retreated. And she told me, because I was trying to put a little multicultural diversity thing together, she's like, you better have me the whole way. She said, like, don't let me go, because, and there are others who do not speak out. So sometimes we think that we just don't have any allies, and the truth is, no, we've beat up the baby, the bathwater. We've thrown them all out together to the point that they don't trust us enough to help us, because they don't see us
we leave them out there
as
on their own.
allies.
Which means that you don't have enough black folks around you who you can go to confidently and confide in and say, look, I'm gonna need you some help on this.
How do I
Because
say
here's the deal, because to your
without
point,
killing myself?
if you are a white evangelical out there and you need some help on this, call Jim Wallace. He can help you, walk you through your whiteness and your religion and this whole issue. But again, Amisha, the reason I'm raising this is because it continues to be a problem. And the only way, look, when Spike Lee, I forgot which one of the movies he did, and he said, look, don't come holler at me for an interview unless you send a black writer. How
People
dare you?
were
Then they went.
livid.
Then they went.
Les, we gotta find
Shit,
one.
ain't nobody
We don't
black.
have
They don't have any money.
I mean, some editors said, it didn't dawn on me, ain't nobody. They were like, damn, are you in the mail room?
Right.
Can you write? Can you? And that's the piece.
Right, or
And some-
Beyonce and Gabrielle Union just now saying first time with a lead photographer for a photo shoot for these magazines they've done. shoots over
all
and
these
over
black women in
again.
Hollywood say, can I
Yeah.
find somebody to do some
To
black
do your
hair,
hair.
right?
But I do think there's something to be said about how being an ally is communicated, to your point, because depending on your audience, depending on the organization you're in, how you approach this is going to be very different. I think that, to the example you rolled earlier with Megyn did it with a level of accountability that also did not sound attack-worthy. Yes, people were still shocked, but it wasn't you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and automatically people shut down.
Here's the deal. However you want to do it, all I'm simply saying is this here. When you have white people in white spaces and you looking around, and look, I'm a man. I don't need a woman to sit here and have to walk me through going, yo, where the women at? Can a woman not be? I'm serious. I don't need a woman to have to say, okay, Roland, let me explain. No. Can we get a woman in the executive position? Can we get a woman on the board of directors? Can we get a woman who's a VP or EVP or SVP or direct report? Shit, I don't need no damn crib sheet to go, okay, this is how. No. I'm all I asking white folks to do is open their damn eyes and go, damn.
But you have to have a
this room is
about it, though.
But that, no.
And they don't.
Hold up.
Those decision makers don't.
Hold up. No.
They're also very comfortable
But that's the
exactly.
But the point I'm raising is, because when I worked at the Fort Worth Star Telegram, I was getting ready for our Unity convention. I look into the editor's room, and I'm like, damn, this is my damn white room. So when they got out, my editor, Mike Menakina, I said, Mike, let me ask you a question. I said, you ever dawned on you how white that room is?
And what did he say?
I did. I was City Hall reporter. I didn't give a damn early. Y'all, this is my second job in the business. I ain't give a damn then. He said, no. I said, let me ask you a question, Mike. If you went to the Women's Chamber of Commerce event, how quickly would you realize you wanted a few dudes in a room? He said, it probably wouldn't take me long. It's okay. I said, if you went to the Black Chamber of Commerce event, how long would it take you to realize ain't that many white people here?
Right.
I said, you gonna feel that thing, huh? He said, yeah. I said, but if you went to just the regular Chamber of Commerce event, it probably wouldn't dawn on you that it's mostly white. He says, precisely. I said, see, Mike, the difference between me and you, I got to know the room. I walk into a room, go, damn, it's all women here. Damn, it's all black people here. Damn, it's all white people here. I said, Mike, what I need you to do is to walk into the room and open your damn eyes. And that's the piece that I'm trying to get more of these folks to understand is I need you to open your eyes. I need you to just sometimes to sit there and just like, don't talk and go, damn, it's all men in this room deciding something. It's a level of awareness.
Right, but it's beyond that, Roland. If you, listen, the top 3 issues in every black person's life on a day-to-day basis, race is in one of the top 3, top 5. When they do the same poll on people that don't look like us, on white people, white America, they say, where's the issue of race or sex on your top 10 issues or top 5 issues? Race or sex isn't in that top 5.
I got it.
So you got to get people to think about it because it's not a day-to-day issue.
And what
for
I'm
them.
trying to get them
That's
to do.
no excuse for them either. I'm just saying.
No. What I'm asking, I don't even want you to start thinking yet. I just want you to actually open your eyes. Scott, do you understand that perfect example? The day Kamala Harris dropped out, we had a panel of 2 men and 1 woman. Monique canceled. I said, ain't no way in hell on the day Kamala Harris dropping out, we're going to have 3 dudes on the panel.
And you bumped me and put 3 women on the panel after that.
Precisely.
I didn't like
Set
that.
your ass on the sidelines.
Why wasn't on the sideline?
No, you were on the damn side. You were standing over there in that corner about 45 minutes.
I love
And so,
Leave me at I canceled.
no, you canceled.
Okay,
but
but
then,
I
and
did.
then, hold
Okay.
up, y'all. Monique canceled. I called. How your punk ass gonna cancel? But I'm trying to sit here, and so then I flipped it. Because then all of a sudden, when you turn the TV on, we had an all-female panel. That's because I opened my damn eyes.
Yeah.
I could have easily been like, Jackie, whoever you book, cool. No, I went,
Could put me on.
it's a all. I can't talk about this black woman dropping out of the race and have all dudes on the damn panel. Just like when I was at CNN filling in for Campbell Brown, all this stuff, Oprah and everybody talk when Chris Brown beat up Rihanna. Every discussion, it was women. I said, don't y'all think we might want to have an all-male panel? A white producer, Rebecca Cutler, who's now one of the top execs at CNN. She's like, for what? If we're going to talk about domestic violence, can we talk about the people who are largely the one doing the abusing? So it might make sense. They fought me like, now we did it, because I was like, damn it, we going to do it, but they fought me like a dog on it. Fought me on it. I was like, y'all, if you're going to talk about domestic violence, you got to stop having all women discussing domestic violence. Somebody has to talk to the men. And they were like, man, that's a good idea. That's all I'm
Unless
saying.
they're afraid of what the men would say.
No.
Which is really simple.
No, it's
Simple
called
life.
no.
They shouldn't be worried
What it
about
was
that.
is you were used to one thing, and somebody was saying, let's look at this thing differently. And that's what I'm trying to get folks to do. Open your eyes. That's why you're afraid you can be present or have presence.
Yeah.
If you present, you like, let's go on with the meeting. Presence means, hold up, can we get a woman in here? Matter of fact, hell, can we get two? Can we get somebody black in here? We were on a conference call at CNN, this whole debate over white Hispanics. And somebody on the call, this was one of those calls, we had like about 1,000 people who were on the call across the world. And somebody was like, there are no white Hispanics. Somebody went, excuse me, I'm one. I said, see, I told y'all. Because I was trying to explain to them they're white Hispanics.
Right.
And in this whole debate, and the white folks were saying, ain't no such thing as white Hispanic. And a white Hispanic went,
Hello.
I'm one. Boom. Then somebody went, me too. Boom. Me too. And I'm like, see, if y'all learn to ask the damn question and talk to people. That's all I'm saying. So Megan opened her damn eyes and said, here's what we see. This is also how things get changed. When white people open their eyes and say, we might want to get a few more folks in the room. That's all I'm saying. And when you have that level of power in a media company, yeah, you can do it. It's no different than when you black and you got juice. When you want, Brian Gumble had juice at Today Show. Gil King got juice at CBS. Stephen A. Smith got juice at ESPN. So the same thing, if you black and you got juice, use it. But if you white, damn it, use it as well. Don't sit there silent and say, oh, wait a minute, y'all keep fighting that thing. No, get your ass in the game.
Right.
Get your ass in the game and say something.
Rooting for you.
Right.
Oh, that makes me sick.
That's why I call them damn parking lot militants. Talk all that shit in the parking lot, and when you go inside like you talking all that shit outside last night, you gonna back me up in here? Hell no. All right, I gotta go, y'all. Support Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Every dollar you give goes to support this show and what we do. I want to thank Monique, Chris, Scott, and Amisha. Anyway, Erica, do me a favor. Just cut his ass off for at least about 3 weeks. So support what we do, y'all. Support us, of course, Cash App, PayPal, and Square. And, of course, this show's been on for air for 14 months. Scott still ain't rolling a check. I'm going to let y'all know that. Okay, he been promising that, but we still ain't seen it. So, right.
Got
money. I
don't like how you talk to me.
Oh, okay. He ain't sharing a damn thing.
I'll share more.
He ain't sharing nothing.
Right.
He ain't sharing nothing. So y'all support what we do. We keep it real. We keep it black. That's the only way we roll. Y'all take care. I got to go. I'll see y'all tomorrow. How? You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. So I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.